Good morning and afternoon. It is Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. It's the 5th episode of The Sharing Show. No Logan today, so that's why we started slightly strangely, but we're going to carry on and have a great show. So firstly, I'm going to tell you the most important thing about today's show, other than us starting it on time, is to make sure you use the Zoom chat and you make sure you select all panelists and attendees. When you go into the Zoom chat, there'll be a little drop down. Just make sure you select all panelists and attendees, and then everyone will see the questions and sharing that you're sending through. With that said, it's time to hand over to you guys. Take it from here.
So we would like for you to test your chat. So if you'd like to learn more about Workday Talent, press 1 for yes, 2 for no thank you, 3 for maybe in the future, or 4 if I only had time.
Kahoot.it. Open it up on a computer or a phone browser, any browser, but it's not Kahoot.com, it's Kahoot.it.
That's Kahoot.it.
Okay, here's your PIN. 787-0617. 78-70-617. 7,870,617. It's not a prime number. 787-0617. Enter your PIN. And this is a survey. It's not a quiz. There's no right answer. We're just getting an idea of who we've got today. Okay, again, there's no right answer. First question. Are you using Workday Talent currently, as in you're live on Workday Talent? Yes is red, you're considering it, that's blue, not at this time is yellow, or you don't know enough information about talent to even say yes, no, or maybe. Wow, okay, well, Jill from Wisconsin, I hope this is quite helpful for you. Way more than half are yes on talent, and then 20 not at this time. The second of 3 questions. How are you with report filters and prompts? You're fantastic. You know it frontwards and backwards. You're good with it. Would need some help, or you don't write reports. This is on report filters and prompts. And this is some input. Gina from Virginia. A lot of people are good. Then there's a mix between fantastic and need help. And very few people here don't write reports. So that's good. Let's go to the next question. Again, a report question. Do you know how to use subfilters? Well, yes, you always know exactly subfilters. Sometimes it works, is blue. Yellow is, it doesn't work for me. That's one I hear quite often. And then green, what's a subfilter? Maybe 7 people will be green. Okay, a lot of people write reports, have never used a subfilter. There's 8 people who we have some help for. And then some surprises for 33 people, maybe. From Virginia taught me something yesterday. Okay, thank you everybody for your input.
Logan wanted to let everyone know that she cannot make it today. Instead, we have our 9/9 organizer, Christy, to fill in.
Oh, it looks
so
like
welcome,
Logan,
Christy.
It looks like Logan left her shoes.
Well, before we introduce David, the sharing guy, I have to ask, what do you have there, Christy?
I just have the 9/9 registration from the ecosystem that I've been working on.
Okay, all right. So it looks like you're carrying around a lot of information there. And you know what, Christy? I could tell what you're thinking, right? It's like, okay, it is big shoes to fill, but as a 9/9 organizer, it's really different than what Logan does. So don't be worried about filling Logan's shoes.
All those who have registered for the 9/9 Share-a-thon should have received an email from me within the last 24 hours with your 9/9 number.
All right, and Christy, I think you sent out maybe over 500 numbers for 9/9. And
I
so
did.
people, yeah, okay. And that's, so people should see this, right? Workday friend Christy.
Yes. If we received if we have your community ID on file already, it's a little bit different email, but if we haven't received your community ID, receive this email requesting for you to send it back to us so we can complete your registration.
Okay, and that's so everybody can, everybody who has a community ID can participate in 9/9. That's what I want to talk about. So hi, everybody. It's David, the sharing guy. I used to be a Workday employee. I'm not a Workday employee anymore. This is a handshake agreement I have with Workday that, that this is not training. It's not free training. Everybody knows I no longer work at Workday. My views do not necessarily represent the views of Workday, or as do everybody who's sharing today. Everybody, this is just customers sharing with each other. And now we're opening it up to the ecosystem. So my mission, help as many Workday customers as possible. Well, this is actually expanding into the ecosystem. So I highly recommend the 9/9 Share-a-thon. And as of last night, or I should say today, open to the entire ecosystem, customers, partners, Workday employees. As long as you're part of the ecosystem, you could be part of 9/9. So there is a link on my LinkedIn post, and we'll put it here also in a Zoom. We'll begin asking you questions like, what's your current position and what's your history? Have you been a customer, a consulting partner, a software partner, an employee? Like, I've been almost all of these. I've never been a consulting partner, but I've been a Workday customer. I have been a software partner of Workday. I've been a Workday employee. So those are questions you'll see in the survey. And the idea of 9/9, we have under 3 months, but over 2 months. Can you be a purple squirrel? Hopefully you're getting the Wednesday emails. I'll explain to you how to get those if you haven't gotten them yet. But across the top, everyone has these. Everyone has business processes, reports, dashboards, COP field security, inbound EIBs, integrations. And everybody has some of these things, not all of them. So let's take, for example, talent and reporting. So are you a purple squirrel? Are you good at reporting for talent? There's so much to learn in Workday, and we have only a little bit over 2 months before 9/9. So make sure to join the customer sharing movement. If you're not seeing the emails, make sure to search your emails for the word Hopyard. That's one way to find it. It's probably going into your spam. So how much does it cost? How much will it cost to join 9/9? Like, all the free registration for customers are over. So it's hopefully not sticker shock. $9.9 billion. Well, okay, if you register in June, we're going to divide that by 100 million. So it's $99. Well, don't think of it necessarily as a huge expense, because Christy, the organizer, will be sending you a hat, maybe a shirt, maybe both. It depends what you put in your registration. And it depends on when you registered. So registering today is going to be even a better deal than dividing by 100 million. We'll divide by a little bit more as well. So this is going to have to happen on the next show instead of this one, but I do want people to know nobody has yet won the Purple Squirrel's friend name from the previous season. Go back and watch it. It's still open. You could win an Apple Watch. I thought this was a good idea, the Workday 300. It's still a good idea. It might just take a while. People enter their birthday. Go back to past shows to see it. And this one was going to be today. We'll do it on the July show instead. You must be present to win, and you must know your 9/9 number.
For who's next for today's fantastic lineup of sharing fans?
So next, we'd like to welcome back Jill from Wisconsin. Welcome, Jill.
Hi, everyone. This is Jill. I was guest on the April sharing show, and I was sharing on Career Hub. Today, I'm going to be sharing a little bit more around talent, specifically how feedback ties into talent management. How talent has been, more than a hot topic as of late. Certainly COVID accelerated, that shift in talent strategies in terms of how organizations really view, find, develop, and measure talent. And while there's certainly a lot to consider when we're building out our talent strategies, there's so many ways to get to the end in mind. And most oftentimes, everyone's organization or company culture really starts to play a big role in some of those decisions in terms of how things are planned. If you do support talent, you tend to side with certain frameworks or models in the industry. I always like to look at different models or different frameworks kind of used across the board, but the reason for that is because everybody really views talent differently, right? To the right here on the screen, what you see is John Berson's model, which for the most part, I think encompasses a lot of how I have viewed talent and how I've modeled talent strategies over the course of my career. Now, within each one of these categories, though, again, there are certainly so many other subcategories that could be defined, but a really common theme across each and every one of them is the ability to solicit and give some kind of feedback. Now, that could be coming from the perspective of giving feedback on a candidate, maybe giving feedback on an employer or coworker, maybe even perhaps giving feedback on company cultures or processes or whatnot. Now, if you've attended the roadmap discussions and presentations on community like I do, there's certainly a shift in the way that the Workday product will continue to support talent going forward. Talent management can now be broken apart into essentially 4 different categories, and we'll cover each one a little bit deeper on the upcoming slides, but essentially talent inside of Workday it is segmented in our core and talent optimization grouping, so to speak. So I'm curious how many people want to learn more about these topics. And as we go through each category, I'll ask you to provide either a number or the respective color in our chat box. So with respect to performance enablement, this is where we're essentially measuring someone's performance within the organization, which may involve, goals, competencies, and or potentially feedback. And the result of the performance may indicate that we've got someone that's a high or low performer, which then leads into, more of that career and development focus. Now, our focus today is on feedback, and there have been some enhancements to the feedback capabilities inside of Workday to specifically be able to measure or quantify the feedback. So why don't you go ahead and enter number 1 in the chat if you're interested in any one of these 4 topics for future sharing show topics. All right, so as I mentioned, the performance enablement really leads into those career and development discussions. And in career and development, in terms of the product capabilities here, this is supported by our development items, which may be directed towards coaching or skill development, whatever it may be. But in this category, there's also the ability to identify career and job interests. You can certainly utilize the opportunity graph and mentors or connections if you've enabled those in your tenant. So go ahead and enter number 2 in the chat if you're interested in any one of these topics for future sharing shows. Now, once we have all of our career and development identified, it starts to tend to lead us into that talent pipeline. So I like to think of this as really that extension to career and development, because this is where the succession starts to take place, or the identification of some of those talent or succession pools. And from a Workday's product perspective, the calibration events and the assess potential kind of live in this space. So while those 2 areas can certainly be combined with those performance enablement activities, they can also be independently managed. So some organizations opt to do that. So again, here, why don't you go ahead and enter number 3 in the chat if you're interested in any one of these topics on the future sharing shows, especially succession. Very interesting. All right, now, in addition to talent management, is that optimization aspect, which is really focused on Career Hub. And that's the career planning tool for employees, which includes talent marketplaces, gigs, and performs some of that match analysis to really help workers understand what some of the opportunities are, all based on machine learning, which is going to be sourcing various pieces of data from all of that core data that we just discussed. So you can see why we intentionally created this wheel, because it's all really tying itself together. And then what's happening is it's making recommendations on skills to develop or learning courses for the employee that they may want to take.
And Jill, people could go back, they could go back to the show 2 months ago when you discussed the Career Hub.
Exactly. Yep. So go ahead and enter number 4. Thank you. So this will certainly help us, share more information around talent, to help with that overall conversation. So how does this really fit into your organization's talent strategies in terms of, using either the Workday product or perhaps even other third-party systems? This is a slide from Community of the Talent Optimization Journey recommended by Workday to really maximize that in-product capability. And on the bottom, you can see the anytime feedback function is specifically called out, which will really be the basis of our breakout session today. In our breakout session, we'll be discussing a few different topics, again, around feedback, but feedback in general. What is your organization's culture around feedback? Is it viewed as ad hoc? Is it not necessarily documented in Workday? Do you want to document it? Is it driven by certain processes? And really, how does feedback really fit into your talent strategy? Or is this causing a little bit of a shift in your strategy to incorporate feedback? Are you thinking of employee feedback versus how someone might consider company feedback? Some companies do what's called Feedback Fridays, and they may actually utilize some of the survey functionality inside of Workday. So when we're talking about feedback, it could come from quite a few different tools in the application. When we think about the feedback loop, who's involved in that feedback process today? Is it purely just a one-way conversation between an employee and a manager, or is it amongst peers? Does it apply to perhaps only certain roles or levels in the organization? And then the enhancement to the feedback, which is coming around the corner, is for the qualitative, or some might view it as more quantitative feedback. And, just kind of discussing this with everyone and sharing, is this something that your organization is considering using? Why or why not? And certainly in networking, we're focusing on feedback, but any topics around talent is fair game for today.
Thank you, Jill.
Who's up next for our fantastic lineup?
We have Gina from Virginia.
Hi, Gina.
Hi, hello everyone. Thanks for having me today. Real quick, just give a little brief intro about myself. My name is Gina. I'm currently living in Virginia. I've used Workday since about the end of 2015, and I've been using it through my last 2 organizations, so a little over 5.5 years. My roles have focused primarily on report writing and anything associated with that, so dashboards and calc fields, but I have also been able to work with developing business processes, alerts, notifications, and EIBs. The majority of the reports I've created have been advanced, matrix, and composite, but I have worked on a couple of trending reports as well. I have the most experience with HCM, payroll, compensation, time tracking, and performance, but I've also worked with benefits, recruiting, and learning. And pretty soon I'm hoping to dive into Adaptive, Prism, and Workday Financials. So today I'm going to share a few tips and tricks that have really helped out myself, my colleagues, and a lot of other Workday users in learning report writing and just kind of figuring out where to start when they weren't really sure what to do. So the 4 items we're going to be covering are contextual reporting, built-in data source prompts, report filters, and subfilters. So let's go ahead and jump into our first item. I wanted to start off with this because it is my absolute greatest resource for report building in Workday ever. It's called contextual reporting, also known as report fields and values. It is just an incredible tool that allows you to see all of, obviously, the report fields and values related to almost any instance in Workday. This can be an integration, a compensation plan, it can be an event, it can be almost anything that you need to be able to report on. To use this tool, you will find the instance that you're interested in. You will select the related actions menu. You will scroll down to reporting, and you will select the option report fields and values from the drop-down menu. And this will return a report that lists every single report field associated with that object, along with all of their values if they have one. It gives you details such as the field type or the data type. You can see which values are text, instance, dates. It includes the related business object, the description, and it includes the data source that you can find these fields on. So if you have ever struggled with not knowing where to find the data that you need, This tool is incredible. I would memorize it. It's going to become your best friend. I highly recommend using it to just build your confidence and your knowledge in report writing, because it'll just make things so much easier and so much faster.
Okay, and Gina, what I typically do is show people the second column where there's a value where mostly it's showing blue, but if you look below, there's some black text. And if you're looking at a screen that has on it a number like $11.23, and you have no idea what field to put into the report because the UI doesn't always show the same name that you use in the report. But if you know that value, $11.23 is on that object, like you say, it's an instance of an object of a class. So if you're on that object, you could look, and then I would say instead of scrolling, you could export it to Excel and then search for $11.23, and you'll find the field that displays it. Sometimes there's more than one, right? That's kind of tricky.
Absolutely.
But like you say, okay, this is your best friend.
Yes, I use it all the time. So moving along, so now that you know where to find the data, I want to kind of go over how to make your reports as efficient as possible. So we're going to talk about built-in data source prompts. And this isn't like a mind-blowingly interesting topic, but if you can understand them, what they are and how to use them, it will really impact the performance of your reports. So built-in prompts are just that. They're prompts that are automatically included with the data source, so you don't need to add them manually yourself. To begin, Workday will always process the values in these prompts first, always, before any conditions that you've added manually to your filter tab. And it will always return faster as well. So these prompts can be built into the data source or the data source filter, and not all data sources have them. So in an example here, this is a payroll data source. It has a number of prompts available. You can use the ones that you need, and anything that you don't, you can go ahead and hide them. To view all of the built-in prompts on a report that you already have, you can navigate to the Prompts tab on your report while you're in edit mode. Check the box that says Populate Undefined Prompt Defaults, and this will generate all the prompts available on your report. One caveat I do want to mention is that Workday will generate these prompts in alphabetical order, not in any sort of logical order. So on the screenshot on the left, you can see they've been organized to kind of be grouped together in more of a logical sense. You will have to reorder these. And the biggest piece of advice I can give to you is to not manually add the same filters onto your filter tab that already exist on the data source. I know that might seem kind of obvious, but I'm going to share a quick story with you. I had a colleague who was not very familiar with report writing. She had a report that used this exact payroll data source. She copied it from an existing report, but she didn't have any kind of background as to how it was built, why it was built, or anything like that. The earning and deductions prompt was hidden from view, so she added the earning report field to the filter tab as a prompt. She would run this report, and she would run it for years at a time for large populations, sometimes the entire company, and it would take upwards of 5 hours to run this report, and she didn't know why, because she didn't really have an understanding. So we took a look at it together. We removed the earning field from the filter tab. We used the built-in prompt instead, and now the report was returning in less than 8 minutes. It had a huge impact on the performance of the report, and it was a huge benefit to her because now she could actually spend more time evaluating the data and doing her analysis instead of waiting for the report to run. And so the next item I want to go over is report filters. These filters are the ones that you add manually to your report for your specific needs, for the specific needs of this report. And one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever received in understanding this was knowing that Workday processes filters from top to bottom. It's going to evaluate each condition in order from first to last. And so because of that, you want to order your filters by level of specificity. So your most specific filter should be at the very top of the list, and your least specific filter should be at the bottom. So you can see in our screenshots here, the left side, the most specific item is at the bottom, the prompts are at the bottom, and the very least specific filters are at the top. So on the right-hand side, we've rearranged them. We've included the prompts at the top. We've included the country filter at the very bottom. And this is going to run much more efficiently. It's going to evaluate that worker prompt before it evaluates the cost center, company, and location afterwards.
All right, Gina, I'm going to go back to this previous story you told where something that took hours ran in minutes once you fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a similar story of a report that ran over 6 hours and it actually timed out. So somebody
Mm-hmm.
told me, you know, they can't even figure out if their report's working because nothing came out. I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
just put in a filter for a worker ID. Like, put your own worker ID in there. And she did that, and then she came back later the same day, still doesn't run. Oh, it took over 6 hours. And I couldn't figure it out till I looked at her filter. She put the worker prompt on the bottom instead of the top. So
Yes.
it's this exact thing, such a simple thing, but it could save you 6 hours.
Absolutely. And just understanding that helps you to like test faster. It returns the results for your clients faster. Yes, it's a huge benefit, even though it's just a small tip.
So now let's transition this into the 9/9 Ecosystem Shareathon coming up in September. And you're a good example of what we call the customer sharing movement. We are working on that so that people during the Shareathon won't have to do what I just did. But so tell us, what do you have planned then for the 9/9 Ecosystem Shareathon?
Sure. I have 2 different sessions planned. So the first one will be focusing on reporting tips and tricks for anybody who might want a little bit more help in that area. The second is going to be more of a hands-on session. We'll be focusing on subfilters and hopefully kind of working through some challenges together.
Okay, that's great, Gina. Thank you. We'll see you at the Shareathon.
All right, so the last item I want to go over are subfilters. A lot of report writers have no idea what subfilters are. They don't know what they do. They don't know how to use them. They avoid them because they seem scary. So we're going to go over 4 different ways that you can use subfilters in your report. So in this example, we have a report built on all active employees. And we have a subfilter using the dependents business object, identifying dependents age 18 or older. So in this example, we can use a subfilter to either require specific conditions. So the employee must have a dependent that's 18 or older, they have to. We can use it to exclude that condition. So the employee can't have dependents 18 or older. We can use it to display optional information. So if the employee has a dependent 18 or over, great, let's populate them on the report. But if not, it's okay, just leave the field blank and we'll move on to the next one. Or lastly, we can use subfilters to compare conditions between multiple subfilters. So not a lot of people know that you can have multiple subfilters on a single report. So in that example, it's just saying, well, you can have a dependent 18 or over or a beneficiary 18 or over. So let's go ahead and take a look at the comparisons. When adding a business object on a subfilter, you can choose to reference that business object on the filter tab with 2 different operators. You can use is empty or is not empty. The is not empty operator requires that the conditions on your subfilter must be true. They have to be. The worker has to have a dependent age 18 or older or they will not populate. Now, using the is empty operator will give you the exact opposite population. It says the conditions in the subfilter can't be true. We don't want employees that have any dependents that are 18 or over. So it'll give you the exact inverse of the is not empty operator. You can also choose not to reference it in your filter at all. And this, I think, is stumbled upon by mistake more often than anything. It's really helpful if you want to provide additional data on a report, but you don't necessarily need it to be, it's not required that it be present. So if a worker, again, has a dependent 18 or over, that's great, let's populate them. But if not, we still want the worker to populate, we just don't need that value to be present. The last use of subfilters that I use all the time is comparing conditions between multiple business objects. So here in our example, we decided that it's okay if a worker doesn't have a dependent 18 or older, as long as they have a beneficiary that's 18 or older. So we add a second subfilter. We've used the beneficiaries people business object and we've plopped in our conditions there. back on the filter tab, we're going to reference both of these business objects, but in a way that only requires one of them to be true. So we use the is not empty operator for both, but we use the or comparison instead of the and at the very beginning of the row. This is extremely helpful when you want to compare data on different business objects and either you don't want to create a dozen calc fields or you don't know how to create the calc fields. This kind of takes that out of the equation, at least until you get more comfortable with making calc fields or until it's necessary. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, and you can have multiple. You can have 3 or 4 subfilters if you need to be able to compare a variety of different conditions.
Thank you, Gina.
No problem. Thank you.
Teresa, we're actually not going to do the Apple Watch giveaway until next month. So it's not June, it'll be July, must be present to win. We'll spin the wheel. By then, hopefully everyone has their 6-digit 99 number, and we'll spin the wheel. We'll go 1 digit at a time, and we'll see who wins next month.
So next up, we're ready to explain about networking and also 99 registration.
Okay, so Dawn from Georgia wasn't able to make it. She wanted me to give everyone a heads up because the first Thursday will be the 1st of July. And also a heads up, the start time is now same time as this start time for the sharing show, 9 o'clock Pacific or noon Eastern on the first Thursday of July. There are some new expansions here. New is yellow, and then in red, various topics for the new the workday and payroll. So you'll hear more about this from Dawn. I'm sure she always likes to point this one out too. I'm sure she gets a lot more quotes, but I do like the one that she likes. One of her favorite lines is how great this is to share with each other because it helps confirm that I'm not crazy. I'm not going to say I repeat that every day, but often I come back to this slide.
I have to appreciate that one. All right, now it is time to head into our separate Zoom rooms. If you look in the chat, we will have the information posted there for everyone.
Here are the 3 choices. Reporting, this is a mistake. We're not staying in this room. There will be a link that Christy's posting. Talent, Jill's posted already. 99 registration is what Teresa posted. So be sure to register today if you haven't registered yet. Open to Workday employees, partners, everybody in the ecosystem now. And then Kane, you get to wrap us up.
Yeah, no problem, David. So thank you, David, Christy, and Teresa, and special thank you to our guests for speaking on the show today. As always, we publish this episode on our YouTube channel, so head over there and like and subscribe so that you get notified when new material is posted. So without anything else to do, all that's left to say is everybody have a great work day.